Okay, racers, it is race 7, which is a team time trial on the Greatest London Flat Route. Okay, race 7. So 1 lap of the Greatest London Flat Route in the team time trial format. So let's just break that down. How many laps? Well, 1. 31.6 kilometers, 199 meters of climbing. How do you score points? Well, that's easy. The team's time is the time of the 4th rider over the finish line. So your job is to get at least 4 riders over that finish line in the fastest time possible. How do you do that? The trick is easy. It's to stay together so every rider except one at any point in time is in the draft, and then that one is right in the front, and then you just switch that person out as often as makes sense. As you're going through, you want to make strategic decisions on where and when you drop people, and if, of course, you drop people. Remember, you want to cross the line with 4 exhausted finishers in the fastest time possible. If you're going to drop somebody, you don't want to waste 30 seconds wondering if you're going to go back for them, slowing down, waiting for them, and then going, oh, well, he's not going to keep up, she's not going to keep up, let's just go on anyway. You've just wasted team time. The trick is to decide very quickly whether or not somebody's going to make the cut and then leave them behind if you have to. So this then takes us to formation. How do you ride with everybody in the draft? Well, beginning teams should ride as a blob. We all know how to ride as a blob because we do it in group rides and races all the time. And so it's relatively easy to do. You can just churn at the front so people are taking that front spot periodically and everybody else sits in the draft. As you get a little better, you can stretch that blob out so people are taking more formal turns at the front and everybody else is drifting a little bit behind, maybe 2-3 meters behind. If you drift a little further back than that, then you're in danger of falling out of the draft and that will cause problems. So stretch that blob out, but keep it relatively informal as you're doing it. And then the third way of doing it is what the experts do, and it's what pro teams do outside as well, which is ride in a pace line. Pace lines are really efficient as a way to ride, but they're very hard to do, particularly over a long period of time. So if you can't pull that off, don't do it. You're better off sitting in a stretched blob than you are in a bad pace line where people are falling out of the draft all of the time. All right, enough lecturing onto bike choice. This route's not as flat as it seems, but Aero still beats Tron on this route. Obviously, I've got a little more detail on that on a slide down the line. If we take a look at the DS notes, jumping over to there, look, I'm not going to go blow by blow through these lines. I've put in orange some critical points where you need to pay attention, and then on the 2D map down below from Velo Viewer, I've annotated it slightly with some landmarks. Other than that, I think the most important things are found here on the key points for the ride. So unlike in other races, I've got some things to do before the ride. Maybe it's when you're in the pens, maybe it's before that. But what I want you to do is agree that formation. Maybe one of the 3 that I talked about 2 slides ago, the blob, the stretched blob, or the pace line. Agree what you're going to do. Don't just show up and throw up and then hope for the best. You really want to know what's going to happen. And then discuss those pinch points on the ride. It's the 3 that I talked about, which is actually just 2, but one of them happens twice. But discuss what you're going to do, and then I've listed my key points: Northumberland Avenue, the flat on the Strand, we'll cover that as we get there in the recon ride, the section around Piccadilly, which is an uphill, a downhill, and then an uphill again, the long flat around Greater London, where you should be maximizing your ability to push hard in a consistent fashion, over into Richmond Park, the triple bumps, where you come out into Richmond, and then it kind of bumps up and then down, and then a tiny little up and down, and then a more sustained kilometer up. But those are the triple bumps at 18.8 kilometers. I find these the most annoying part of this entire ride. And I'll say that just because everybody's got tired legs, and a sustained, even a low grade sustained climb really sorts the team out, and that's where you're going to see a split occur. The wall out of the underground at 22.7 kilometers, there's no strategy here. There's just push through, power up that very short 13%, and then regroup at the top. And then you hit Northumberland Avenue again at 27.6 kilometers, but this time you've got tired legs. So those are the key pinch points that I see on this ride, and don't forget that pre-race strategy. Jump onto the bikes. Here's a new one. I've been trying to find a decent picture of a Tron bike, but I couldn't find one, so I got this rubbish picture of a Tron bike from the film. But anyway, these are my 6 choices, and the Tron, of course, as well. I think that because this is quite flat, if you're at level 31, you might see some benefit of going with the Cervelo S5 2020 with the Envy SES wheels, and then of course when you get to level 42, upgrade to those DT Swiss Arc 1100 wheels. If you're below level 31 and you have the Tron available to you, you should use it, and I think that's where things lie. It's the same 6 choices. Nothing's changed in terms of what the bikes can do. I will say, I haven't talked about this a lot, but I will say this because there was a little commentary back and forth in the comment section last week that these are, generally speaking, the right 7 choices for most riders, 7 including the Tron bike. But some of you want to accentuate your positives or mitigate your weaknesses. If you're a big rider and you're going to struggle on anything that looks like a hill, maybe you want to go towards a more middle of the road or a lighter weight bike. For example, you might choose that instead of going for at level 31 those Envy SES 8.9 wheels with the Cervelo, go with the Tron, because it may give you a more balanced approach than you would otherwise get with the more aero Cervelo and Envy. Anyway, there's that to consider. Let's leave this from here and let's jump straight into the recon itself. So it's a TTT. First thing first, when the clock hits 0, you just sit tight. Then when your time comes, you will go as a team out and get in formation quickly. It is a short flat out of the gate, and then it turns into a little uphill as we go past this start-finish gate, which is not our start-finish gate, not that we care. Alright, the trick, as I talked about earlier on, is to work together as a team, and it is as simple as that. The best teamwork is the best time. In a points race, communications are fun affectation, if you like. It's fun to chat to your colleagues. In this race, it's everything. You need to know how you're all doing. You need to make sure that if somebody's really feeling it and dropping back, that you need to do something about that. Enough of this. I think a slight interlude is needed at this point. Thank you for that, Molly. I certainly feel better and more warmed up. Got a link up to her channel up there. Let's just talk a little about what you can do if you want to support the channel. Well, first off, I want you to tell all your friends about Sherpa Dave and Sherpa Dave channel. I want you to like and subscribe the channel if you haven't yet. And of course, the DS notes, just download them and use them because it helps the channel out. There you go. That's all you need to do. All right, back to the ride. We have a rolling grade to 3.7 kilometers, which is where Northumberland Avenue hits. Let's just get into that formation that you talked about in your pre-race briefing and go from there. Northumberland Avenue is the first proper hillock that we will see. It's only 400 meters and averages 4%, but you do want to focus on the one thing: stay together while maintaining the best pace that you can. Time and time again, I see teams that split here where a lighter rider just feels his legs and goes for it and is 20 meters ahead of everyone else. And look, here's the reality: if you're 20 meters, 10 meters ahead of the rest of your team, you're doing them no good at all. You are hurting your team time. And on this hill, it's particularly bad because as we go over the brow, if I'm 10 meters ahead now, when I hit this, I'm going to be 15, 20 meters ahead. And you have to waste time slowing down and trying to match momentum before you lose too much time, too much space. Anyway, this now undulates down for 1.1 kilometers to 5.4, which leads me to this point. Since we don't do too many team time trials, I say undulates down or undulates up a lot. And what I mean by that is between the start point and the end point of the section I'm talking about, there's a clear up or down. But the grade varies as we're going through that. And you can see this here. It's down 1%, it's up 1%, it's down 2%, it's up 3%, it's down 3%, but generally speaking, it ends downwards. So what I'm asking you to do here is just stay in formation, stay together, and be able to deal with slight changes in the gradient as you go. This route has one of the longest lead-ins, I think, that I know of in Zwift. It's, I think, 7.5 kilometers. So we're going to cover this 7.5 kilometer stretch twice, this time and then at the end of the race. It's worth saying that if you do this ride in Zwift, I think London, when I'm filming this or when I'm recording this, London is one of the guest worlds, and you just select this route, you will end up right around here somewhere on the mall. You won't end up by the Pens. So this slight false flat up carries on and actually steepens towards the top, not for long, but it does, and then it flattens out for 2.5 kilometers. As we go under this building, and I don't know what that building is, perhaps somebody who does know, somebody maybe who lives in London, can pop a comment down below and let me know. Anyway, it's pan flat pretty much for 2.3 kilometers. This is a great time. You're going to use this later on, these techniques later on. But this is a great time to get back into your formation and really practice taking formal turns on the front, drift into the back to recover, and then just cycling around. I've jumped forward a little bit. We're going back around Trafalgar Square. We're moving forward, and here we are, 10.5 kilometers. It bumps up. This is a 400 meter bump up at 3%. Don't miss that change in momentum. As you go around the bend, you hit that little incline. Speed will slow down. Just make sure you're still in touch with each other. We're now on Piccadilly, and it heads down. It heads down in two bites, if you like. There's this first section, minus 3% down. And then there's a very short flat. I'm going to hit that momentarily. and then it heads down again afterwards. In total it's 900 meters and ends at the middle of this tunnel, this underpass actually. Slight incline here, fairly steady. Just stay together, stay as a group, and push pace as much as makes sense when you're on an upward grade. And it's basically flat or downhill for a whole 5 kilometers, so you can really test yourselves and really push the pace in formation as you go. Whatever you do, don't stop here at Harrods and buy something expensive. I don't know if they've got a bike shop in there, probably not with luck. We're going to jump forward in a few seconds because nobody wants 5 kilometers of flat on a recon ride. There we go. Alright, we're approaching Lambeth Bridge now, and that's where we're going to head over to the Surrey Flats. It's flat pretty much till we get to the bridge, and then we just bump over the bridge down the other side. Apologies for that slight glitch there. This is a steep down, but not for long. It shouldn't do anything to you. Even if you do separate out a little bit, you can regroup really easily on this wooden boardwalk here. I know it's 800 meters flat till we get out into the Surrey Hills. Alright, we're about to hit the triple bumps that I talked about. The first one is 500 meters, 3%, but it does hit 9%. And this is where things get interesting for me anyway. I think that one of the reasons I hate this section is by now you've been pushing hard for quite a while. And when you hit these bumps, not the first two so much, they do sap a little bit of energy, but they're not that big a deal. It's the third one that really sorts things out because you've got tired legs, you've been pushing really hard for whatever that is, 17 kilometers or so, and then suddenly you've got a sustained but not steep climb, and it never fails to split teams. Not just teams I'm in, I will say. Generally speaking, I see teams all the time splitting on the third of the bumps. Anyway, we're downhill, and now we're on bump 2 of 3, which is the really short one. 200 meters averaging 1.5%. You can see the numbers are not big here. Hop down the other side. And now we're on the third of the 3 bumps. It's 1 kilometer, it only averages 2%, but the majority of it is 4%, and that's just enough to really create those splits. What is really important here, we've still got quite a ways to go. We've still got about, 14 kilometers to go on this ride, and so it becomes very important to do one of two things. If you do have a split, do everything that you can to prevent a split, but if you do get a split, quickly determine whether or not that ride is going to be able to stay with the group. And if they can't, leave them behind. Don't waste time in and ahhing about whether it's a good idea to go back for them or not. Make the decision and execute it. But remember, you've got a long way to go, so it may well be worth slowing down and letting them catch up. Only they and you can tell. All right, we're at the top now. So there's a short flat at the top. Regroup, make your clever decisions, make those decisions and execute them quickly down this hill that is coming right now. Pick up speed and accelerate in formation as you go. 800 meters descending at -3% on average. All right, we're coming up to the wall out and we're going to hit a 13% incline just for a short while. And look, the reality is there is no strategy, there is no team approach to this. This is an individual effort. You're at 15% there. There's no draft effect. Just punch your way up here. Push as hard as you can as an individual rider. Get to the top and then as a team, regroup. And that is the only way to do this. Usually I tell you to have a plan and a strategy for any sustained hill, but there is no plan or strategy for that wall. Just punch through it and then regroup at the top. But you must regroup and fix splits really quickly right now. If you're still split up at this point, you've taken too long. But it's flat now, 1.2 kilometers altogether out of the tunnel to 24.3. You can see the pens there in the mini-map, so you know that we're almost back on that lead-in, so that'll be some familiar tarmac to you. Familiar tarmac, but there's one big difference. There's probably less of you than there were, and you certainly will have tired legs. If you don't have tired legs, you weren't pedaling hard enough. All right, here we go. Hopefully you have been making some clever decisions, but with 7 kilometers to go at this point, you might be able to afford to drop a rider if that makes tactical sense to you. At this stage in the ride, it is more important than it ever was to communicate with each other. You need 4 riders. If you're down to 4 riders, even if you have 5 left, you have to communicate and let each other know what's happening. Once you're at the 4 rider point, you can't afford to lose anyone. So it's all about maintaining the fastest possible speed for the 4th fastest rider.
Never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves. We won't let the world burn away. Burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised.
We're coming up to Northumberland Avenue again, and my experience here on this particular route in team time trials is actually that second time around on the lap rather than the lead-in, this is actually easier to go up here as a group. Everyone's got tired legs. Your climbers are not sitting there going, hey, I got loads of energy, I want to prove myself and zip ahead. Everyone's kind of operating at the same level, so I rarely see splits the second time up this hill, which is great. If you get a split though, recover when you get here, regroup, ride on together. There's that undulating downward again, and you can see it undulates downwards, but it pops up to an upgrade there, and then we're back to a downward trend. The trick for the team is to manage that.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down.
Only a couple of kilometers to go now.
Like a sparrow with broken wings, but now I shine with your reflection on me.
False flat upwards 1% to that U-turn. Keep talking to each other. This is the point at which encouraging words from your co-riders out there will count for double. Just past the 1 kilometer mark. Now you can count down those meters round the bend and you can see the finish line. Don't stop pushing as a team. Finish with a flourish. There we go. You're done. Alright, I'm going to leave you with the 3 slides we reviewed before, and the last slide right at the end is the team times, the target times. This one has been done a few times before as a team time trial, and so I'm pretty confident in the times that I have given you there on the last slide. So let's see what you can do, and between now and then, everybody, ride on.